I secretly pawned my own wedding ring to buy a once-in-a-lifetime collector's video game. Then my wife found out and made sure I lost my console, my collection, and my dignity and my marriage, and now I don't know what to do. The short version is in the title, but the long version is a lot worse. And yeah, I already know I screwed up. I'm not pretending I didn't. But I also didn't think one stupid decision would basically blow up my life, my marriage, and everything I've spent years building. I feel like people online assume every screw-up is a secret plot, or addiction, or moral failing, but sometimes you're just an idiot who makes one choice you shouldn't have, and it dominoes until your whole world collapses. I've been collecting retro games since I was a teenager. Not hoarding, not drowning in junk, actual collecting, shelving, organizing, making sure everything is clean, preserved, cataloged. It's my hobby. It's the one constant I've had through jobs, moves, and family crap. My wife always said she understood it even if she didn't get the point, which I'm fine with. We didn't fight about it or anything. The only recurring thing was space, because anyone with hobbies knows how that conversation goes. Our marriage wasn't perfect, but it wasn't falling apart. Mostly stress, mostly money stuff. Mostly both of us being tired adults trying to pretend we still had energy. We'd have the occasional, "Why does this bill look like that?" argument like every couple. Nothing dramatic. Then the collector's edition popped up. I'm not going to name which game because I know how Reddit is, and someone will go digging, but this was my holy grail. It's one of those things that never shows up locally, and if it does, it's either broken or fake or, "My cousin says it's worth $10,000 nonsense." This one was legit. Condition was insane. Price was actually fair. The guy selling it wanted quick cash. I didn't have quick cash. We'd had a couple surprise expenses that month, and my fun budget was shot. I should have walked away, but I didn't. I pawned my own wedding ring. My plan was simple: pick up the game, work some overtime, pay the pawn ticket, get the ring back before my wife ever noticed. I wasn't trying to be shady. I wasn't pawning her jewelry or family heirlooms. Just my ring, something I figured I could fix before it became a problem. You can probably guess how long that lasted. She found the empty ring box shoved in my drawer before I even had a chance. I wasn't wearing the ring because I'd forgotten to grab it after work a couple times, which I realize now already looked weird. She asked me what happened, and I froze. I didn't think. I panicked. I said something about losing it at work and retracing my steps. I shouldn't have lied, but I felt like telling her the truth would make it worse. Spoiler: lying made it worse. Instead of calming down, she started checking things. I don't mean rifle through your wallet snooping. I mean reasonable questions that I reacted to like someone cornered. She went through the backpack I hadn't touched since grabbing the pawn slip. She found it. Every bad explanation fell out of my mouth before I could stop myself. She didn't scream. She didn't cry. She just went cold. Like talking to a wall that hates you but won't admit it out loud. Next thing I know, she's saying she wants to go to the pawn shop with me. Right then, I hadn't gotten the money together yet. I told her I needed time. She said that made no sense. I said something defensive. She shut down even more. It was spiraling fast. Then she called her brothers. She didn't tell me she was doing it. They just showed up, walked into our house like it was a crime scene, and acted like I'd been caught with a secret double life. They weren't yelling at first, just talking to her in low voices in the hallway, like I wasn't 20 feet away. Eventually, one of them looked into my game room and made some joke about me being a grown man, obsessing over plastic toys, which was rich coming from someone whose entire garage is filled with broken dirt bikes. I snapped back. He stepped inside the room like he was going to start grabbing things. That room is the one place in the house I actually felt like myself. I shoved him out. Nothing violent, just a "get out of my space" shove. Suddenly everyone's yelling. One of them knocked over a shelf I had spent actual hours organizing. Cases fell. A couple cracked. My wife stepped between us, not even looking at the mess behind her. She said she didn't trust me right now and needed space. They told me to leave until things cooled down, like I was the unstable one. I packed a bag and left because staying would have just meant more shouting, and I didn't want to lose my temper. I'm staying at a friend's place right now, trying to figure out my next move. I'm angry, but I'm also embarrassed, and I can't tell if this is salvageable or already over. Update 1. My wife still wasn't talking to me. She'd respond to texts, but it was always 1 or 2 sentences. Very stiff, very controlled. It was like talking to a coworker and not your spouse. And she wouldn't agree to meet in person. She just kept saying she needed space and didn't know what she wanted yet. I wasn't pushing divorce or staying together, I just wanted to talk like adults, but she had zero interest in that. So I decided the least chaotic thing I could do was get the ring back. That way, when we eventually did talk, I wasn't coming in empty-handed or still lying by omission. I didn't want this to drag out longer than it had to. I knew pawning the ring was stupid. I'm not pretending it wasn't, but I figured if I went early and paid the fee, I could undo that part at least. And I walked into the pawn shop thinking this would be the one part of the disaster I could actually fix. It felt like small relief, something tangible. I waited in line, told the guy behind the counter I was there to pick up an item, and handed him the slip. He looked at it, typed something, then made this face I can only describe as cautious. I knew instantly something was wrong. He told me the ring was on hold already. At first I thought he meant it was pulled back for inspection or something technical. That's how naive I was still acting at that point. But then he explained it. Someone had come in earlier, a woman, showed proof of ownership, asked for it to be held because she wanted to secure her property. It took me a second before the pieces clicked. My wife had been here before me. She didn't need space. She needed enough time to beat me to the punch and make sure I didn't get the ring before she talked to them. She acted first without saying a word. She didn't even tell me she had the slip. She must have found it when she tore through my things. She planned this silently while I was scrambling. I asked the pawn shop guy if she took it already. He said no, it was just on hold and they couldn't release it to me anymore without her signing off. When I drove home, I honestly thought we were finally going to have a real conversation. Like two people hurting, but still married. Instead, I walked into my gaming room and froze. It was empty. Every shelf cleared, every case gone, the console gone, accessories gone, stuff that had taken years to collect, organize, save for, bargain hunt for all boxed up and removed without one discussion. It didn't even look like my room anymore, just furniture and dust outlines. There was a note on the desk, basically saying she'd return everything when she could trust me again. That she needed to feel safe and wanted time to think without my hobby clouding the house. I'm not proud of the way I reacted. I wasn't violent or anything like that, but I definitely lost my cool. Not in some dramatic smashing things way, more like this cold shaking anger that made me feel like my own skin was too tight. Because that room was the one place in the house I never asked her to be involved in. I kept it neat. I never used money we didn't have. I didn't blow rent on collectibles. I sold and traded responsibly. She knew that. She'd said it before. So this wasn't protecting herself. This was punishment, and it wasn't fair. I texted her and told her that taking all my things wasn't okay, and she at least owed me a conversation. I told her she couldn't keep stonewalling me and still expect this to somehow work out. And I was blunt about it. If she kept avoiding me, I would reach out to her dad because he's the one person she actually doesn't ignore when things get bad. That got her attention pretty fast. She finally responded, but not with anything I expected. Instead of talking about the ring or the collection or the blow-up with her brothers, she said she'd been going through our financial records while I was gone. She'd been digging through bank statements and transaction histories. She said she'd found stuff that didn't add up. ATM withdrawals, random charges, a card used for small purchases, and none of them matched anything I recognized. She said she thought I had been hiding more spending from her, not on games specifically, just in general. Like I was spiraling financially and keeping secrets. I was standing in an empty room, looking at years of my life wiped off shelves, and now she's telling me she thinks I've been sneaking around with our money too. It almost didn't feel real. But when I looked at the numbers, I realized something that honestly stunned me more than anything else that week. I didn't recognize those transactions either. They weren't mine. She had jumped to the conclusion that I was the one draining our account. Meanwhile, I was still trying to explain the ring, still trying to clean up after one mistake, still trying to get her to talk to me normally again. And the whole time she was holding back this discovery like it was some secret trump card. So now she thinks she's caught me in some deeper lie. And I'm realizing something else was happening behind our backs entirely. Neither of us trusted the other enough to say any of this earlier. We were both acting on half-truths and assumptions. And just like that, this stopped being about the ring. It stopped being only about the game or the pawn slip or even the fight with her brothers. Now it was something else, someone else, apparently, who had been messing with our account. Update 2. My wife texted me saying she wanted to sit down and go through the bank statements together. I didn't feel great about it, but at that point I was already drowning in suspicion and stress, so I went. We sat at the dining table, and it was such a strange feeling because we were technically in the same room, but acting like people who were afraid to even breathe near each other. She had the account pulled up already, and the second I saw the list of charges she highlighted, I felt my stomach drop. It wasn't that they were huge transactions, it was the opposite. They were small things, $5 here, $20 there, and they'd been happening for months. Stuff like gaming store purchases, snack runs, streaming subscriptions renewed twice, weird auto payments that didn't even make sense. At first, I thought she was accusing me of sneaking around buying more games. That was the assumption hanging in the air. And honestly, if I were her, I probably would have thought the same. I already proved myself capable of making a stupid financial decision behind her back. I pawned my own wedding ring for a game. I didn't exactly give myself the benefit of the doubt. The thing is, the charges weren't mine. I looked at every one of them, and I knew they weren't mine. Then I recognized one of the account names linked to a recurring charge. It was my cousin's name. He stayed with us for a few months a while back when he was getting his life together. I gave him one of my old debit cards linked to our joint account so he could buy food or gas while he was figuring things out. And like an idiot, after he moved out, I tossed the card in a drawer and forgot about it. I never deactivated it. And he didn't just forget about it though. He set up a bunch of little charges and just let them drain the account slowly over time, probably assuming we wouldn't notice. She didn't say anything at first, just stared at me like she was waiting for my reaction to confirm whether I was lying again. And I could tell she wanted to believe me, but she also had that look like she was bracing for disappointment. Finding out the charges weren't mine made me feel relieved for half a second until it hit me that she had spent days assuming they were mine, and that she only found them because she went digging through every part of our finances behind my back. And then I remembered that I gave her a reason not to trust me in the first place. So instead of relief, it turned into this horrible mix of guilt and frustration. We started trying to talk it through, but the conversation didn't stay calm for long. She started listing everything I'd hidden from her recently, even things that had nothing to do with money. It felt like she'd been building a case against me in her head. Meanwhile, I couldn't get past how quick she was to treat me like someone she needed to investigate. She kept saying she didn't want to feel stupid or blindsided, and I kept saying she didn't get to seize my belongings and hand them to her relatives like I was some irresponsible kid. It snowballed, and once we started touching old wounds, it all got worse. Her brother showed up again, like he was waiting outside for an excuse to march back in and throw himself into the middle of things. He didn't come to help. He came to stir up more crap. He kept repeating the same garbage he said before, about how I was addicted to gaming, how the pawn shop thing wasn't a one-time mistake but a pattern, how I needed help and she was better off cutting her losses. I snapped. I'm not proud of it, but I did. I wasn't going to sit there and let him act like I was some reckless mess who'd been draining our finances for years. So I kicked him out of the house. Not physically, just told him to get out and stay out. He made some dramatic comment on the way out, but I ignored him. We tried to get back on track, but then I brought up my collection because at this point it mattered just as much as everything else. I asked where it was and when I could have it back, and she hesitated. That hesitation alone made my skin crawl. She eventually admitted she took all my consoles and games to her sister's house, which I already suspected. What I didn't know what she kept putting off telling me was that her brother-in-law had already gone through some of the boxes. He saw 2 of the sealed editions that were valuable, didn't understand what they were, didn't think they mattered, and sold them. Sold them for almost nothing to some friend of his. She said she didn't know he'd done it until later, and that she'd told him they weren't his to touch, but that didn't help anything. Those games weren't replaceable. They had sentimental value and actual value. They were things I'd kept protected for years, and they were just gone, like trash someone tossed out when cleaning a garage. I think that was the moment something inside me finally cracked. I didn't yell or rage. I just felt this cold emptiness hit me. Those weren't cheap knickknacks. Those were pieces I spent years tracking down. They were mine, and she let her family handle them like they were clutter. My wife kept trying to say she didn't approve of what her sister's husband did, but that didn't stop him from doing it. She kept saying she didn't mean for any of this to happen, but that didn't change the fact that she'd boxed up my belongings without asking and handed them over to people who barely respected me in the first place. I left the house after that, not slamming the door or saying something dramatic. I just didn't want to look at her or the empty space where my collection used to be. She tried to follow me out to the porch, but I told her I needed to think, and I kept walking. Now I'm still staying at my friend's place again, just trying to cool off before I end up behind bars and her brother's in my fridge LOL. Update 3. My friend has been supportive, but even he admitted that if I didn't take some kind of formal step soon, her family was going to keep treating my stuff like it was abandoned property. I already knew that, but hearing it out loud made it hit harder, so I finally made an appointment with a lawyer. Nothing dramatic, just a consultation about property rights and what I could legally request back. I honestly thought it would just be advice, but the lawyer told me I was being way too passive considering my collection had already been partially sold without my consent. He drafted a formal letter and sent it to my wife and her sister. It wasn't aggressive or threatening. It basically said the items were legally mine and needed to be returned in their original condition, and if that wasn't possible, we'd pursue compensation. My wife didn't take it well. She texted me saying I was blowing things up and making everything worse. She said she thought we were finally getting back to a place where we could talk, but now I had turned it into a legal issue. I told her the only reason it became a legal issue is because she took my property, let her sister access it, and allowed it to be sold without telling me. She didn't argue, but she didn't really acknowledge that either. She kept repeating that she thought this whole thing could have been sorted privately. I didn't know how to explain to her that there was no privacy left when her family kept showing up at our house and inserting themselves into everything. Then her sister sent a long text basically accusing me of trying to destroy her family financially. She said the 2 items she sold weren't worth anything and she was doing us a favor by clearing space. It was surreal. I read it 3 times trying to convince myself I misunderstood, but no, she really meant it. Her husband added his own message saying I should think about my mental health because healthy people don't cling to toys. I didn't respond because anything I said would have just fed their story that I was unstable. The next part is where everything really fell apart. My lawyer got an email from my wife's father asking for clarification. The lawyer forwarded it to me. That's how I found out my wife had moved the rest of my collection to her father's place. She never told me that. Last I knew, only the items at her sister's house were missing. I didn't even know the rest had been relocated. The lawyer asked if I wanted to inspect the condition of the items before drafting the next step. I said yes, partly because I needed to know what I was even dealing with, and partly because I still held on to some stupid hope that at least something might still be intact. Her father agreed to let me come by. I went alone. I wasn't trying to start anything. I just wanted to see what state my stuff was in. He was polite but distant, which I expected. He showed me to the garage where the boxes were. I don't know how to describe the feeling I had when I saw them. The boxes were soft, damp, and partially collapsed. Some were sitting directly on the concrete floor, which had obvious moisture marks. One box had mold visible on the edges. I opened the first one and just froze. A good portion of the sealed editions were warped. The cardboard had pulled away from the shrink wrap. A few had water stains across the bottom edges. Another box had been stacked under something heavy, and the contents inside were crushed, including one collector's box I had spent years trying to find in decent condition. I just stared at it. I didn't touch anything else because I felt sick. Her father kept saying he didn't know they couldn't be stored there. He said he assumed boxes meant they were durable. He said my wife asked him to keep them somewhere her sister wouldn't touch them. I didn't say anything for a while because I didn't trust myself not to say something I'd regret. It wasn't even anger at him. It was a kind of hollow shock. When I left, I texted my wife and told her what I found. She responded eventually, but all she said was that she hadn't realized the garage was damp. She said she thought she was protecting my stuff. She said she didn't know her sister would sell anything. She kept insisting she never meant for things to get this bad. I didn't yell at her. I was past that. I just told her I needed some space. Her sister, on the other hand, doubled down. She told extended relatives that I came to her father's house trying to start trouble. She claimed I'd tried to take things without permission. She said I was unstable and obsessed. My wife didn't correct her. She admitted she didn't want to cause more conflict. That was the breaking point. Not the collection, not the mold, not the pawn shop, not the lies. Just realizing she was more afraid of upsetting her family than standing up for the truth. I'm not innocent in all of this. I know pawning the ring started the chain reaction. I've been angry, but now I mostly just feel worn down. I think this marriage might actually be over, even if neither of us has said the word yet. Final update. So, yes, we're getting divorced. I moved out officially a little over a week ago, and she didn't fight me on it at all. We had to start dividing property right away because neither of us wanted anything dragging out. I asked for compensation for the items that were sold or destroyed. I didn't try to inflate the numbers or make it a dramatic punishment. I calculated the real value and showed her what I was owed. It wasn't some massive figure, but it also wasn't pocket change. Her sister refused to pay at first, But when my lawyer sent her a formal notice stating exactly what her husband sold and exactly how much it cost, she suddenly decided she wanted the whole thing to just be over and transferred a smaller amount than she should have, but still something. By that point, I honestly didn't have the energy to fight for the exact penny. She gave me the ring back the day I moved out. She put it in my hand without looking at it. She said she couldn't look at it without feeling sick. I probably should have felt something hearing that, but I was too far past the point of reacting. I put it in my pocket and kept packing. I haven't taken it out since. As for the divorce itself, I'm the one who filed. I know I started the first domino by pawning the ring in the first place. I'm not pretending I didn't mess up, but everything after that felt like a landslide where no one could stop picking up more rocks to throw. She didn't trust me after the lie, and I couldn't trust her after she let her sister walk all over my stuff and didn't push back. And I know myself well enough to admit that even if she begged me to come back, I wouldn't be able to be in that house again.